it fits everyone here beautifully. And this is the thing. You'll never be bigger than you think you are. You'll never be greater than you're thinking. You'll never go further than the way you let yourself think. And one of the things you want to be careful of is we tend to think of ourselves as a collection of the past. And we're really not. We are really all evolutions. And the past doesn't predict the future unless you want it to.
Right.
So if you really decide that you want today to do something magnificent with your future, to leave a legacy for your children, to leave a legacy within your industry, you have to think bigger. You have to think greater. And you have to have that faith, confidence, and belief that leads you along, that'll stretch you along. You'll never be bigger than you think you are. So if you feel like this is a good week, someone said touched you, you want to make a change, you want to make a move, the only thing you need is courage when you get home. And then you have to have, interestingly enough, I spent most of the day yesterday in bed, but I was really very fortunate because not only was The Patriot on, which is my favorite I Don't Feel So Good movie, one of my second favorite movies is Saving Mr. Banks, or Mary Poppins, Mr. Banks, Saving Mr. Yeah. And Walt Disney. And Walt Disney coined an interesting term that he thought all artists should pertain to. And he said that when he created a character, what made Disney's characters very special, what made you fall in love with them, and still today, after they create a character, after they create Mickey Mouse, who most of you know was Mortimer Mouse, and then Mickey evolved. And as Mickey evolved, Mortimer lost the pointy nose because it looked more like a rat than a mouse and became softer. Then Mortimer became Mickey. Well, when Mickey Mouse was created, Mickey Mouse actually had a philosophy. Most of Disney's characters have a 3-point philosophy. Number one was that you would never see Mickey when he wasn't smiling. Mickey would always smile. Mickey was a smiler. Number two, Mickey was part of the team. He took care of everyone. He was always there, okay? Number three, Mickey had stick-to-itivity. And that was the word that Disney coined. Disney said, great artists have stick-to-itivity. Because we all have. How many times have you had a life-changing idea in the car, only to get out of the car at work and go, shit, what was the idea? The idea, my life-changing idea. I'll never be rich if I can't think of this idea. And all of a sudden it's gone. Okay, so there's just that. And I promise you, we are family in this room. Something about the Amicos really does create a family atmosphere. Stay on me. Don't ever feel bad about calling or emailing me, and let's get some things done so that we can come back next year and we can celebrate more successes, more like Rhonda, more life-changing events, more good things. Now, with that said, we've all been talking a little bit about finance. Here's the most, every day, I have to go back to my room and I have to file this off with a nail filer, or else it's on there for days. And you go like this, and people go, "What's on his hand?" It's just a marker. The most important part of finance: do you know your tax rate? What bracket are you in? If you don't know what tax bracket you're in, odds are you're losing money somehow. So if you really want to get serious about finance, that's the first thing you want to do. You want to learn what tax bracket you're in. Then learn, based on what you do, what is deductible. What can you deduct? Now I have to admit, I'm not as strong as I used to be, and I know we used to be able to deduct European or anywhere travel if it involved the beauty industry. And I know that some of that has changed now. But there's a lot of stuff now there used to be 10 years ago, you could go to Rome for a week, spend 2 days in a spa, and write it off as research and development. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So learn what you can deduct, what's deductible, okay? And then the last thing you need to know regarding taxes and deduction is not exactly how much they take, but how is your accountant?
Right.
Is your accountant great? Is your accountant good? Is your accountant a friend of the family? So my suggestion would be, go 2 towns over and give your taxes to another accountant and pay him. And have him or her tell you what they say. Because say, for instance, your accountant's making a small $1,000 mistake. If that $1,000 was put into a great stock 20 years ago, you could be rich today. So sometimes we lose sight of the trickle process. And especially those of us in the room that are artists, it became very difficult to me to explain to my staff, do you know how much more money you'd make just in tips if you acted nice and dressed well? You'd make an extra $10 or $15 a day. People pay you sometimes based on how you look. So the last thing is, check your accountant. And my God, if your accountant happens to be a good friend to the family, that's the first one to check. Because that's the one where you don't know what they're doing and you don't know what they're costing you, but find out, okay? And if you're making a decent amount of money, don't do your own taxes. I mean, TurboTax is fun. It'll get you through. I would still have an accountant check it and see what they can do, what they see, because that's a big part of your income. Make sense? Are you all with me? So there's your homework, son. Find out what your bracket is, find out what you can deduct, and find out what... Okay? Good. What my work is, there we go. All right, so I mentioned yesterday, taxes, meetings, help me help you, we got it. All right. 2 of my favorite books. I just want to share with you, this is what I do. Now you have to know something. If you're not reading, you can't compete with people that do. You don't have to go nuts. 20 minutes a day could make a life change. We came in, sat down, the first thing Kathy said to me was, do you have a new book list? I handed it to her, she took a picture of it, and was kind enough to slip it back in my folder so that I know that I have it. But you have to stop and ask yourself sometimes, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you studying? What are you doing basically to fill that gap? The gap between where you are and where you could be, the gap between what you know and what you could know. What are you filling that gap with? So here's what I do. These are 2 of my favorite speaking books, and I'm going to go through them with you, but this is a book called The Laws of Lifetime Growth by Dan Sullivan. Now here's what I did. I just took the caption from each chapter, and that's what I read. And then I try to use my memory to remind me what was in each chapter, and I'm going to go through it with you. And then the title is The Laws of Lifetime Growth.
By who?
Dan Sullivan. By Dan Sullivan. It's a great book. And by the way, you know, we're not, most of the time, great readers, artists. You may have to read a couple of times. But if you stay with it, it will make a difference. And I'll tell you what, it's just like cutting hair. The more hair, I used to say to my staff all the time, you'll get better, just keep cutting. The more you cut, the better you'll get. The more you cut, the more you read, the faster it'll go. The more you read, the faster it'll go. The more you read, the more you're going to want to read. The more you want to read, then you really get moving. The second book is called Success is a Choice by Rick Pitino. P-A-T-I-N-O. Success is a Choice by Rick Pitino. So, just so you see, when I get done with a book, here's my book report. Now, I'm going to share this with you, but this is basically for me. There's the 10 key points. And I just keep the 10 key points. Now, after we're through, we get a break. When we take a break, if you want, we can put these out, you can take pictures of them. Perfect. So that you can get an idea of then how to kind of tear a book apart and get the most out of the book. And I love it because I think that, especially these 2 books, it kind of ties up our whole week. You know, you've spent a week in Cancun, but you've invested this week in your future. You've invested. You will go home today, tomorrow, having increased your value to your marketplace. No one knows that right now but us. But every one of us here knows that you are going to go home tomorrow having increased your value. You've experienced some Geno, you've experienced some Ivan, you've experienced some Harriet, you've experienced some the Master, John Sr., you've experienced some of Giovanni. I mean, there's been a lot of things. Plus, we've all had moments at dinner, times together, lunch, where we talked about what's working, what's not working. When you increase your value to the marketplace, and no one knows but us, your second primary job is to develop a dialogue to talk about this week with J.A. Jamazing. Okay? What happened on your Jamazing week? And you should make a little book report like this so that you have dialogue to share with all of your customers. Because you know damn well the minute you get back to work on Tuesday or Wednesday, hey, how was it? How was your time? Don't talk about how beautiful the ocean was, how beautiful the beach was. Talk about, oh my gosh, the speakers, the learning, the incredible haircutting. I've really sharpened my edge. The only way you increase your value with others is to share your story with them. So your job is to increase your value with your customers through dialogue. Make sense?
Yes.
Otherwise, here's what happens. If you charge $50 for a haircut, they label you as a $50 haircut. If you give them no reason to believe you've increased your value, they get mad at a price increase. They don't understand. They think you're going to go away. Why do you want more money? You're going to buy a new car. But if you increase your value constantly and they see you learning and growing, I used to say all the time, if you buy my CDs, put them on your station. Because your customer will then, what is that? Oh, that's the speaker we get at JA. He's amazing. Oh, I could continue to tell you how great he is, but you are. You know what I'm saying, right? So you need to create a little dialogue about this week that we all spent together. And as much as we kind of kid around about it, even yesterday or the day before, us guys at the pool were sitting in somebody else's chairs having a conversation about, well, here's why. It's so important that you make the most amount of money in the least amount of time. It's so important that you learn how to work smart and not hard. And a lot of you know I always share, if your stress level is this high and you're making this much money, it's high, dangerous, unhealthy stress. But if your stress level stays right there and you start to make this much money, you have high, dangerous, unhealthy stress, but you don't care. You're going shopping, or you're going to buy a car, or you're going to go away for a few days. So there is a direct correlation between, it's sort of like, how many of you have a client that you wish was with the Lord? Now, if you could charge that client triple, you'd like them more. They walk in, you go, there she is, the one I hate, but I get to charge her more. Okay? So pay attention to prices. Now, let's talk about what Dan Sullivan says in the Laws of Lifetime Growth, because this is amazing. Here's first, the first chapter. Make your future bigger than your past. Make your future bigger than your past. Now, I've been great at this because my past, very past, was not a good thing to think about, talk about, look at. You follow? However, I did find myself many times thinking, well, you probably don't have the knowledge. You know you don't have the education. How far do you really want to go? And at one point, I became happy matching my father's salary and thinking, well, I'm making more than my dad did. And then I began to have people that entered my life that I started to listen to that would say to me, do you have any idea how much you could be making, or how really good you are, or how great of a draw you have, or why don't you raise your price? And all of a sudden I got serious about it. But here's what you need to know. Not only does the past not predict the future, but as good as you can see the future look, is about as good as the future's going to be. So you might want to change the way you see the future look. Do you see yourself happy and healthy and having a good time, enjoying life, not worried about money, not worried about stuff, and start to think about how are you going to increase your value and be better in the future than you were in the past? Because life's experience will grow you. It just does. However, if you take the time to study a little bit every day, if you take the time to laugh a little bit every day, if you take the time to dance a little bit every day, when I go to seminars and people always say, talk to me about balance, I'll always say, I don't know that there is balance. Balance is an elusive butterfly. I'm going to tell you that if you like things as much as I do, you're going to work more than normal. Because I like to have stuff, I like to go away, I like to travel, I like to buy stuff. So you need a little more extra money. But I believe what balance really should be about is to work a little every day, study a little every day, play a little every day, dance a little every day, and laugh a little every day. That's balance. That's at the end of the night when you go to your bed and think, wow, today was a full day. I had a full day today, okay? Next, make learning greater than your experience. Make learning greater than your experience. What does it mean? Stop for a minute and think about how much we all learned from each other this week. Just stop. Don't you see certain people and say, I'm never going to be like that? That's a learning experience. You learn from them what you're not going to be. You see some people, you're like, wow, I want to aspire to be more like them. You've learned. You read a little quote or something and you're like, wow, that changed me a little bit. You learn. So here's what you have to do. If you can make learning greater than your experience, you're always seeking knowledge. I am always seeking knowledge. How could I be a better speaker? Every time I read those books, all I think about is you. When the book is done, I look at the book and think, okay, what can I bring back to beauty from that book? Even though it has nothing to do with beauty, what can I bring back to the beauty industry to get them to understand that we are deserving? We are. And that if you really pay attention and you do things right, it's really not hard to sell. See, here's what I think happens with a lot of you in sales. Whether you're selling recruiting, whether you're selling yourself, whether you're selling your products, no matter what you're selling, there's a point of knowledge and persuasion. When you're selling to a person or a group, there's a point of knowledge and persuasion. How much do you know? How well do you persuade? When you get to this point, they will buy. Most of us stop right about there. Some of you are so close to the curve, to getting on the other side. Yet you're shutting down. You're really not making that push to get to the other side. And sometimes it takes a lot to make that push. But once you make that push, this is the easy part. You just kind of slide down. You know, I feel as though for the remainder of my years speaking, I don't have to read or do anything. I mean, I've got the system. I know the words. I know how to put them together. You follow where I'm coming from? I'm here. I'm just kind of sliding down, picking up the checks, collecting the money. So what you want to be careful of is don't stop before you get to the top. Now, I'll give you an example, and please forgive me if I did this before, but I have to share with all of you. I did check with Johnny, and Johnny says I've never done this before, so if you think I have, just shut up and pay attention, okay? Let's make this as real as we possibly can. I want all of you to close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. Hold out your hand with your hand up, and I'm going to come around, and Kelly, hold out your hand with your hand up, with your hand up. He is dumb, isn't he? I'm going to come around, I'm going to put a lemon in your hand. I'm right now coming around and putting a big, juicy, yellow lemon in your hand. Now I want you to feel the lemon. Make it as real as you can. Just feel the lemon. You feel how it feels a little waxy? There's a little bit of wax on that lemon. Now I want you to take that lemon, carefully put it down on the table. Carefully put it down. Nice, nice, put it down. Put your lemon down on the table. Put it down on the table and grab the little knife right next to it and just cut your lemon in half. Grab the little knife and cut your lemon in half. Now pick up half of the lemon. Just hold it in your hand. Can you feel the lemon juice? Can you smell it? It smells a lot stronger now than it did when you first had the lemon in your hand. Now take that lemon and bring it up to your nose and sniff it. Boy, doesn't it smell citrusy, lemony, really good? Now everybody take a bite out of your lemon. Take a bite out. Okay, now stop. Everybody open your eyes and look up here. How many of you did your mouth fill up with saliva? Now mine does every time I do it. My jaws hurt. Yeah.
The jaws hurt.
Do you know you just tricked your brain into thinking you bit a lemon? And your brain made your body produce the fluids to digest the citrus of the lemon. You fooled your own brain. Do you know how easy it is sometimes just to fool your own brain? Do you know how smart you are? How capable you are? Do you know that the biggest limitations you have are you? Are you holding you back? Now, I'm not saying you got to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Those of you that know me, you know I start everything saying I care only about our quality of life. Some of us need a lot, some of us need a little, but all of us deserve to have a good life, to have a happy life, to have a good time, to feel good about who we are and what we do. Make sense? Are you with me?
Yes.
If you're with me, say yes.
Yes.
All right. Next, make your contribution bigger than the reward. Make your contribution bigger than the reward. Some years back, the Professional Beauty Association called me. They want to give me the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I said, oh, I don't know if I want it. And they were like, why? I said, well, I think you die right after you get it. I did. I said, do you have anything? I said, wait, let's think about who's old. Let's give it to Vivienne McKinder. She's really old. Or let's give it to Yosh Toya. He's really old. Next year they called me. They said, we want to give you the life. I said, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I said, don't you have anything else? And they said, well, we've got this really coveted Hall of Leaders Award. It's really cool. Actually, you'd be the last one to get it because we're going to end it after us. Yes, I'll take the Hall of Leaders Award. So I get the Hall of Leaders Award. I'm on the stage. There's a zillion people in the audience. And they said, why do you think you got this award? And I said, I don't know. I didn't. I'm not a good hairdresser. Never have been, never said I was. I'm really not. I mean, I have some clients that I actually apologize to after I'm done cutting their hair, and I give them money. You know, give them CDs, give them whatever they want. I said, but there is one thing, deep in my heart of hearts, I love us. I love our industry. I love everything about us. We went away a couple of years ago. My son wanted to go boating or something. I said, I don't do that. And he said, well, I feel bad. What are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go to a salon, see my people, and smell the developer, the smell of money. And he was like, well, how will you do it? I said, honey, any salon, if you go there with a pizza, they love you. So you just walk in with a pizza and say, I'm Geno, and they're all, you know already. How many times have you been cutting somebody's hair and you're like, shit, there's pizza in it. Somebody's got pizza. I gotta lie. We lie to the client. I'm gonna go get my texturizing shears. We run back in the break room. I'll buy the pizza. Right? And I said, it's always been about this and not about this. See, here's what a lot of people don't realize. If this is really strong enough, this will come. You're rewarded in many ways. Okay? All right. Next. Make your performance greater than your applause. Make your performance greater than your applause. Don't do it for a standing ovation. Don't do it to get clapped at. Do it to know you made a difference in somebody's life. Now, one of the things I talk about that I've always talked about in beauty is our platform is one where we are not allowed not to be good. That's our platform. I don't care whether you like them or not. If they're going to experience beauty in your hands for that half hour or that hour, how do you make sure your performance is the greatest it can be every single time? Now think for a minute. I have a good friend who I was in a band with when I was a kid. He and his wife both do only aorta valve surgeries, heart surgery, only the aorta valve at the hospital in Rhode Island. And I said to him, how's everything going? He says, we both just hate it. He said, it's just boring. It's all we do. He said, we really wish we had diversified. And I'm thinking, geez, I'd hate to have you. Yeah, another aorta, you know. And I said to him, gosh, I'm so sorry, because I believe life's too short to be bored with anything. I believe it's a great message to you. When you get bored, you got to say to you, boy, I got to change things up big time, change things. Because you don't have time to be bored. There's not enough time in life. And you know how life works, right? I mean, look at all of us. There's how many people in this room are under 25? Anybody under 25? Okay, we got two. Anybody under 30? Who's under 30? Well, under 30s, let me give you an idea. Do you know how big a year is when you're under 30? It's this big. Who's 30 to 40? 30 to 40? Let's tell them. It's really only this big, isn't it? Who's 40 to 50? Hello? Anybody over 50 like me? I don't have enough days left in my life not to have a happy day. I'm just going to have a good time, and nobody's going to stop me. So what I'd like you to think about is there's one way to protect this. One way to protect your performance. Give 100%, 100% of the time. Yesterday, I went down to the pool. We had a couple of meetings. I sat in the sun. I had a couple drinks. I had a little bit of food. And I said to Barb, wow, I think I'm a little sunstroke. Got a little too much sun. Not feeling good. I think I might have a little bit of Montezuma's wind. I think I'm going to go lay down. And she called me. How are you doing? I said, I just feel like I have to stay here. I have a performance tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'm not going to leave the room. Tell them whatever you want to tell them. Tell everybody not to call me. I'm just going to lay down and rest until tomorrow, because I'm deeply committed to this. Are you? You have to be. It affects everything you do. So if there's anything, get in the habit of giving 100% of the time whenever you're with a guest, or whenever you're talking to a guest. I've talked to a couple of the Mexican girls here about, have you ever considered trying to get over to America, go to beauty school? Barb will tell you, I invited, you know Juan at the bar? I gave Juan my card and invited him to my house. She goes, but he stopped doing that.
Ernesto is good also, so is Victor.
Yes. Oh, Victor's great. I'll come back next year and you'll be like, where's Barb? Juan. Okay, next. Time is flying by. Make your gratitude greater than your success. I love that one. You know what? Don't get bigger than you are. Make your gratitude greater than your success. You want to do something really cool? Make a grateful list. What are you grateful for? Make a grateful list. Some days you're really going to need it. You're going to need to look at it and say, wait, it's not that bad. This is what I'm grateful for. Little lists really make a difference. And then express your gratitude to others. You know, I mentioned to some of you, go back home and thank your staff and tell them how much you wish they could be here with you. You know, it's important to express. I believe there's nothing stronger than gratitude and inspiration. I do. You want to hear a great saying? If there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. If there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. What a great saying. So, now think for a minute, all of us. I believe most everybody's here. Is there anybody here in the room? And I know there is, but Is there anybody here you haven't had a chance to meet? Come on now, we're beauty people. Meet everything. It's a little easier on the cruise because we eat dinner together. But here, we eat dinner, and even us, we eat dinner in cliques.
Yeah.
And there could possibly be people here that you don't know. Well, you know what? Express your gratitude. We all do the same thing. We all understand each other better than anybody. There's nobody that, most of the time your spouse, and I'm not talking about the spouses that are here, your spouse thinks you go to work and have a good time. They don't realize how heavy a blow. My ex-wife used to say to me all the time, oh, how heavy is a pair of scissors. And I used to be like, you gotta be kidding me. Make sense? Okay, next. Make your enjoyment greater than your effort. Make your enjoyment greater than your effort. Which, by the way, is, Johnny Z is here, right? Yeah. I want you to know that we have now given Johnny Z, he is now our social director, and he'll be doing
She doesn't want to have camera.
Oh, you bet I am. I'm gonna do something. You know what's funny? As everybody came back from the boat, and I said to a couple, I think I even said to John, well, what a beautiful story to have. You got a nice story on this. Everybody made it safe. It wasn't like, it'd be a different story if you said, well, we lost 4.
Well, we almost did.
Yeah, I understand, but here's what you need to do. Find a way to make today work. Make your enjoyment greater than your effort. Find a way to make today work, okay? Make your enjoyment greater than your effort. Turn tasks into games. Make things enjoyable. Even things you don't like sometimes are teaching you a great lesson. And it takes later on for you to realize. I mean, I remember when I used to hate my path. And then I looked one day and said, wow, my path led me to this path. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes when people say to me, where do you find so much to talk about? I said, oh, it's easy. I've had a lot of storms. And I've made it through. So something great happens. Each storm you make it through, you say, uh-huh. Another storm, it's like, oh, that's not big. I've been through bigger storms. But also, all character is built during your storms. That's where your character comes from. So the more storms you have, the more character, the more there is to talk about, the more there is to share. Next. Did you have a question?
I do. What was your, make your performance greater than your what?
Oh, boy.
Sorry,
No.
I missed that one word. I'm like, wait a minute.
It only comes out once, Misty, and then it's gone.
I'm so sorry.
Make your performance
Greater than your applause.
Okay, thank you.
In other words, you know what that means, right? Don't do it for the claps. Do it for you. Do it for you. Make your performance be something that's something. Okay. Next. Make your cooperation greater than your status. Make your cooperation greater